Hello, welcome back to my channel. My name is Veronia, and in today's video I want to talk about how you could potentially make money and take advantage of the opportunities that may come up if we do end up being in a recession. Now, the reason why I wanted to make this video is because a couple of weeks ago I made a video talking about the potential recession coming up, and I really focused on things that you might want to think about doing with your money as you prepare for it. And if you haven't watched that video yet, you can definitely check that out. I'll make sure it's linked up here for you and in the description below. But in this video, what I actually want to talk about are some of the opportunities that you could potentially find if we do end up being in a recession. Now, as a disclaimer, there is no way that I am praying for some type of recession, because at the end of the day, it could mean that people could lose their jobs, and obviously it means that the economy is contracting. However, what I want to do is make sure that you are prepared in the best way possible. So if we are currently in a recession, you at least know what you could do to your money to give you the best opportunities possible and make things a bit more positive for you, your family and your community, even if there are a lot of negative events going around. So without further ado, let's get started. So the first potential thing you could be thinking about if you're trying to make a bit more money when it comes to the recession is to actually learn how to manage your money well first. Now, here's where you might be thinking, Auntie V, you're talking about making more money and having all of these opportunities. What on earth has managing my money got to do with any of this? Now, please hear me out before you unsubscribe or log off this video. The reason why I mentioned that managing your money is actually going to be important is because so many people make the mistake of thinking that at least if they can just make more money quickly, that will essentially solve their problems. Now, whilst making more money can be very powerful and it can especially be helpful if prices are rising, it is not going to help if you have no idea where your money is going in the first place. And so what could end up happening is, if you do end up making all of this money, if you have no idea where the money is going and you end up spending everything, well, you're essentially going to be in the same position as before, and then making more money would have just been totally useless. So that's why I stress that learning how to manage your money is probably going to be one of the best things, because what that will do is that will allow you to understand exactly how much your expenses come to, and what you might find is that you may even have some free cash or some discretionary income that you could potentially use to invest and make more money. And make sure you do stick around to the end, because I'm actually going to be talking about investing a lot more in this video. So when I say learn to manage your money effectively, I'm talking about things like, do you have a budget? So do you know exactly what is coming in versus the total expenses that are going out? Do you have the ability to save money? Have you been able to pay off any high interest debt? All of these things are going to be really important, because once you then set that foundation, it's going to be a lot easier for you to now make money on top of that. And if you have no idea how to get started, then make sure you do check out my free money management guide, because what I do is just talk about the steps that I took to not only actually manage my money, but to eventually grow my money through investing too. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. I'll link it up here for you and in the description below. Now, the next tip I want to give you when it comes to making more money during a recession is to consider starting a business or a type of side hustle. Now, again, you might be asking me, Auntie V, are you sure now is the best time to really consider starting a side hustle? And I would 100% say yes, and here's why. So for me personally, I do think it's actually a great idea to consider starting a business or some type of side hustle, especially if you only have one stream of income. So for example, let's say that you're just working at your job. I mean, we have no idea what could happen. One day your employer could be paying you, and the next day your employer could also be telling you that you're going to be made redundant. And so by starting another side hustle or business, you can at least start working on that, which hopefully may generate some income over time. So if, let's say, you do end up losing your job, you at least have something that's also building, hopefully, as well as an emergency fund, which will hopefully tide you over the next few months until you're maybe able to find a new job. Plus, considering the fact that we have all of this high inflation and things are becoming much more expensive, having a side hustle or another business could help alleviate the pressures of having to pay for things even if prices keep rising, because at least you'll have another stream of income on top of maybe your day job if you do have a day job. Now, again, remember, you want to go back to my first point, actually understanding how you can manage that money first, so that if you now add another income stream on top of that, you will know exactly where that money is going, and it's going to be a positive impact, not a negative one. Now, if you've always wanted to start a side hustle but you're not really sure where to start, I'm actually part of a membership called Financial Joy Academy, which is essentially designed to help you start a side hustle or business business so you can eventually reach financial independence. It's run by two amazing people, Ken and Mary from The Humble Penny. So make sure you do check that out if you haven't already. I will make sure I'll leave a link in the description below for you. But on top of that, you will be surprised at some of the businesses that ended up starting during a recession. These are the likes of Airbnb, Disney, Groupon, WhatsApp. So sometimes there are going to be opportunities, especially if you know how to solve problems and if you're able to give value within your business. So I would encourage you to not be afraid to take that risk. And if you're liking this video so far, then feel free to give me a thumbs up, as it really does help to support the channel. Plus, I'm sure you know, it's free. Now, the next tip I want to give you when it comes to making more money during a recession is to start focusing on building in-demand skills. Now, the reason why I say that is because I come from a HR background, and let me tell you, there are certain employees that if they have certain skills, their employer will be trying their hardest not to lose them. And so even if we do end up in an economic downturn, if you have these in-demand skills that many employers are still looking for, even during a recession, you're more likely to, number one, be a lot more marketable, but also at the same time, you're less likely to be at risk of being laid off because your employer won't want to lose you. And I am actually talking from personal experience. So for example, in my case, even though I did work in HR, I wasn't just a general HR professional. I had actually specialized in skills to do with things like talent development and diversity and inclusion. And so because of that, and at the same time I was performing very well in my role, my company did not want to lose me. And so even when we had the pandemic and my company had to lay off 25% of its workforce, I was not one of them. And even within my team, many of my colleagues were at risk of redundancy, but I wasn't. I actually got mapped into a different role, which again was a very specialist role. And within that same year during the pandemic, a few months later, they ended up giving me a 17% pay increase. And so what I would 100% say is that if you have certain in-demand skills, even if we are in a recession, you may be able to gain very big opportunities. It could be with your own employer, or it could even be with other employers who are seeking those same skills. So my top tip would be to maybe have a look at your industry or have a look at your role and ask yourself, are my skills in demand? And if they're not, what kind of skills do I need to start building on to make sure that I'm not only marketable, but to the point where my employer will try to do everything to make sure that I stay in that organization. And when you're trying to train for these skills, it could be that you end up asking your employer, maybe they have a learning and development department, and so you can go straight to them, or it could be that you find some courses online that you can take. But one of the biggest things I would say is definitely make sure that you're still trying to build as many skills as possible, because you could potentially take advantage even if we are in a recession. Now, the next tip I want to give you when it comes to potentially making money during a recession is by investing your money. Now, again, as a quick disclaimer, although I am a money coach, I am not a financial advisor, and so I can't specifically tell you what to invest in. However, what I can do is help you understand how investing works and also show you why investing can be very powerful. So a big reason why you could potentially make money during a recession is because during an economic downturn, or if we ever hear bad news and basically people think the world is ending, what tends to happen is you have a vast majority of people who don't necessarily understand how investing works. But what that basically means is that because people are so scared, people end up selling those investments, and so essentially the value of those investments will then start to go down. And so the way you could potentially make more money from this is by taking advantage of that opportunity. So if everyone is busy selling their investments and investments have now gone down in value, that means that it's going to be cheaper to buy. And so if you have done your research and you understand if these investments still do have strong fundamentals, what you could essentially be doing is buy them at a cheaper price, knowing that later on, especially in the long term, those prices will start to rise and will recover and will probably grow even more. So for example, during 2020, or even if we go back to the 2008 recession, the people that were the winners were the people who understood how markets work and they understood how investments work. And so what they did is they basically bought up all of these investments at such low prices, knowing that it would eventually recover, and made a lot more money compared to many people who ended up buying at the highest price but sold at the lowest price, meaning they lost a lot of money. Now, if investing is something that you're interested in doing but you have no idea how to get started, and you also want to learn how to manage your money effectively so you can take advantage of some of these opportunities, then make sure you do check out my one-on-one coaching program, because I can help you get started with investing. and having more money that you can save even if we are in a recession. So make sure you check that out if you haven't already. You can book a free sales call with me. So I'll link more information up here for you and in the description below. And remember, especially when it comes to investing, I like to think about Warren Buffett's quote, which is to be fearful when others are greedy and be greedy when others are fearful. So when it comes to investing during a recession, there are some key opportunities out there if you know what you're doing. So if you did like this video, then please do give me a thumbs up if you haven't already, and let me know in the comments, are you planning to make money if we are in a recession? I do post every Tuesday, so if you would like to know more, then of course you can subscribe to my channel, and I will see you guys next Tuesday.